Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, Vashishta, Daksha, and the 10th son, Narada, were thus born. And this is a nice purport which brings us to a subject matter I think worth deliberating upon. The whole process of the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation is meant to give the conditioned souls a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. Brahma created Rudra to help him in his creative endeavor, but from the very beginning, Rudra began to devour the whole creation, and thus he had to be stopped from such devastating activities. Brahma therefore created another set of good children who were mostly in favor of worldly fruitive activities. He knew very well, however, that without devotional service to the Lord, there is hardly any benefit for the conditioned souls. And therefore, he at last created his worthy son, Narada, who is the supreme spiritual master of all transcendentalists. Without devotional service to the Lord, one cannot make progress in any department of activity, although the path of devotional service is always independent of anything material. Only the transcendental loving service of the Lord can deliver the real goal of life. And thus the service rendered by Srimad Narada Muni is the highest among all the sons of Brahma. That's the end of the purport. Om Ajnanatam Virandasya Vinanjana Shalakya Chakshurabalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Kadapayam Dalati Swapanam Hare Krishna. So, the interesting point that I personally feel inclined to mark about this particular purport is that it would do us very well to understand it would do us very well to understand what is the actual purpose of this whole setup: creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the cosmos. This whole material world is vyakta and avyakta for eternity. It means that it is manifest and unmanifest for eternity. And as mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, there's a reason for this. There's a primary reason, and then there's a secondary reason. Primary reason, the first and foremost important reason, is to actually retrieve the fallen conditioned souls. The secondary reason is to incarcerate them or to imprison them. Krishna always has our welfare in mind. Actually, that's on the forefront of his mind. What he has to do to accomplish or to achieve the fulfillment of his purposes, that is a secondary consideration. But actually his purpose is his primary consideration. The purpose is to somehow or other get living entities who've developed an aversion toward him to again take up their natural constitutional position as His eternal loving servants. Actually, His intention is that we become loving servants, God-loving living entities, not God-fearing living entities. So, in this purport, Prabhupada mentions about the transcendental loving service. Loving service. This is not transcendental fearing service. He's discussing the principle of loving service. Fearing service, you may be knowing, is the nature of Vaidhi Bhakti, whereas loving service is the nature of real Bhakti, Para Bhakti, or in words which sometimes may be misunderstood or tabooed in various ways, Raganuga Bhakti. We should understand that this whole material world is only one purpose for this material world. Because inherent within every living entity is the capacity for cultivating the moods of Vraja. We are not simply to pander to the lowest common denominator amongst the society of devotees. We should remember that those who have come to this Krishna consciousness movement are considered to be the most intelligent among all the living entities on this planet. Those who have recognized the beauty of Krishna and have appreciated, even to the slightest degree, the goal of attaining the eternal service of Krishna in prema, unalloyed prema. That means Vraja Prema, not any other alloyed type of prema. Just like Kubja also had prema, but her prema was alloyed with desires for self-satisfactions in relation to the Absolute. But the prema of the Brajvasis is unalloyed. So we should take into consideration that as every living entity inherently has the capacity to culture the moods of Vraja, we, especially as members of a preaching movement, this is a preaching movement, what are we preaching? What are we supposed to be preaching? It is very clearly described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is the purpose of the descent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And I'm going to bang on this point a little bit, just to drive it home. We are supposed to be the most intelligent persons on this planet. Now, admittedly, we're at different levels of progress to the ultimate goal. Some of us are naturally, because we're beginning the process of Krishna consciousness, we're on the Kanishta platform and may be deemed as Prakrita Bhakta. But we should know that it was not Srila Prabhupada's intention that we should continue to remain on the Prakrita platform for the rest of eternity. Not that we should continue to remain on the Kanishta Adhikari platform for the rest of our lives. Prabhupada's intention is that we should come to the platform of Parabhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, in this lifetime. Now, it may be possible for some, and it may not be possible for others who perhaps have not the required accumulation of Bhakti-Mukhe Sukriti from previous lifetimes to have the strength of Shraddha and the right kind of Shraddha for embarking on the Rag Marg. But we should understand that the purpose of this movement is non-different from the purpose of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's descent to this material world. Mahaprabhu's descent to this material world is twofold. His purpose is twofold. Prema rasa niryasa, korite swadana. Swadana means to taste. Prema rasa, not any kind of prema rasa. Vraja Prema, Radha Prema. He came to taste the mellows of Vraja Bhakti. And the second, and no less important, as it pertains directly to his descent to this material world, it has no meaning otherwise. Rag, Marg, Bhakti, Loki, Korite, Pracharan. Pracharan. What does Pracharan mean, please? Preaching. Preaching what? Rag, Marg, Bhakti, Loki, to the people of this world. Rag, Marg, Bhakti means spontaneous devotional service following in the footsteps of the Brajvasis. Not following in the footsteps of Kubja. Not following in the footsteps of the queens of Dwarka or any other of the Yadu dynasty. And certainly not following in the footsteps of the Vaikuntha-vasis. In the hearts of those who have actually imbibed the essence of the teachings of this Sampradaya, the Rupanuga Sampradaya, the Gaudiya Sampradaya, they consider the attainment of Vaikuntha no better than the attainment of hell. What is the use of a Krishna without a flute? What is the use of Krishna without Radha? So our business is to understand this Siddhanta. What is the goal of our life? The goal of our life, there's Sambandha Tattva, Abhideya Tattva, and Prayojan Tattva. Prayojan means necessity. The prime necessity of every one of us, because inherent within every one of us, is the capacity for cultivating the mood of Vraja. So the Anandamaya Vyasat aspect of ourself, for full satisfaction, requires to experience and give Krishna an opportunity to also experience reciprocation on the basis of our prema, Vraja Prema, not any prema. So we should, even if we have not the adhikar, I'm not talking to a bunch of 8-year-olds. I'm talking to people who have gone through Prabhupada's books. And if you've not gone through Prabhupada's books, then I suggest that you make a serious attempt to understand the power, the purity of purpose of this Gaudiya Sampradaya. We are not here just to make an international society for social development. This is not the purpose of this Sampradaya. The institution may have various facets which address various problems or various issues, but we should not lose our focus, please. Our focus is the attainment of prema, the attainment of Vraja Prema. That is the prayojan. And the abhideya, which corresponds to the actual attainment of that prayojan, is Ragmarg Bhakti, not Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti is a program for neophyte devotees to help them to get a foothold. But then you have to make progress. You can't just stagnate, thinking that there's no scope for anything higher in this lifetime, and waste your human form of life, and end up hundreds and thousands of neophyte devotees clamoring at the doorstep of death, without having actually gleaned the essence of what this Sampradaya has to offer. Missed the point, either due to our own dull-headedness or due to the spiritual ineptitude of the people that we're associating with. So it is necessary to seek out good association, higher level association, by which we can actually come to grip with the reality of what we're supposed to be all about as members of the Krishna consciousness movement.